You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Rocket Rod here, I can forgive you, Don, because you haven't got a production bone in your body. You have no idea how to produce anything. My mind, you got a couple of kids, that's about it. And good. And Rocket Rod here, who started Fox Sports, I said we spoke to Jeff Fennick about a specific item, which was the Andrew Maloney fight with the boy Franco earlier. The boy Franco. And I said we spoke to him specifically because he's in the paper. But we're going to speak to another great boxer. And Rocket says, yeah, Sam Soloman. I was going to build up while we're speaking to him. And you just went on chatting about inane subjects while I just sat and watched you two flounder. And talk about going into a think tank. If you two went into a think tank, you'd drown in it. Now, so we have as our special guest I'm telling you this now, the most durable fighter.
You just plagiarised that.
What?
You know what I said.
No, you say what you said again.
You plagiarised that.
Plagiarised what?
That most durable fighter.
We plagiarise everything, Don. That's how we research who we're speaking to. What do you think? I just make this up? What?
There's somebody else's words, but keep going.
They're everyone else's words. Everything I'm going to read out is
haven't you got something? Why don't you speak from the heart?
Because I don't know specifically the record of the man we're going to speak to. Do you want me to try and make it up and be inaccurate?
If you follow boxing, you'd know about him.
Well, you give us off the top of your head.
Okay.
Don't look at your stats. Give us the rundown.
I'm not interested in the stats because you watch them and I don't care about stats.
What that stats is what sports
character and everything comes out in the boxing ring. I've got great admiration for this man.
Stats is what sport is defined about.
It's not. To me, boxing's not stats.
Everything is to do with sport is stats. That's how you decide who's a champion, how many times and bouts they've won.
Boxing is the most unique sport that you fought two men get into the...
I'm sorry, there's a lady in the house. Don, if you're deliberately being stupid...
watch boxing.
You're being a fucking clown.
I watch boxing for a different reason than what you do.
In deference and respect to our guest, who is
I've
sitting
got
here.
respect.
In fact, I've got a feeling he probably won't last the distance boxing terms. He's going to leave shortly. Listen to me. In deference to anyone we speak to, I plagiarise everything off the Google machine or their Wikipedia so we can give a accurate description of who they are and why we've got him in. And you say, don't worry about any of that. He's been a great boxer and all that, and why don't you... I'm telling you who he is, right? He is Sam Soloman, and he's very kindly agreed to join us. And he is the most durable boxer that has ever been up until this date that we sit here, the 17th of November 2020. He's boxed 506 rounds of boxing, and he's been in the light weight
division.
Light, middleweight, super middleweight, light, heavyweight, and cruiserweight. Cruiserweight. I couldn't read my own writing. So that is Sam Soloman. He is known as the King. Do you know why he is called the King?
It's a Masonic term, King Solomon. On the square.
King Solomon.
Do you know much about the Masonic
King
Lodge?
Solomon's Mines.
Yes.
Yeah.
But also
it was a novel written by... It was a novel written by Ryder Haggard in 1885. And the King has adopted, or someone has adopted for Sam Soloman, King Solomon. That's a play on words. He's boxed. His career went from 1997 to 2019. He's a kickboxer and a martial arts expert, but he is one of the most durable boxer ever in the world, and he is a world champion, and he's a star, and we've got plenty of things to ask him. Welcome, Sam Soloman. Now, firstly, Sam, we did ask Jeff Fennick, what did you think of that decision? Give us your perspective on Andrew Maloney being denied the title against whoever it was, Mr. Franco.
Yeah, he was a little gun, Andrew. He's always going to be one of our champions and forever, and I'm sure he'll get another shot. he's a very positive young fella, and you know, he's at the best. He's at the peak of his career still. He's things like this have happened to me in the past, and many other boxers, champions that have fought in the past, and I know that he'll bounce back from that woeful decision.
We asked Jeff Finnick the same, and I'll ask you. It's very subjective. 3 men are sitting there judging. You're not going to have a unanimous decision, are you? We see the fight differently. So how do you overcome this problem when you're being judged?
Yeah, it's been 100 years. same situations happen to so many.
Sam,
in the past.
Could I ask a question? I used to listen to boxing back in Festival Hall days. I listened on
TV ringside.
No, before TV ringside. Ron Casey, 3DB Friday nights. George Bracken.
Looking good
Now,
for your age.
they didn't have judges back in there. It was the referee's decision.
That's right.
Now, do you think it should still be just one person's decision? Why take it out of the hands of the referee?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that. Why they did that in the first place, most 90% of people don't know this, but why they did that was because you want to see the fight from each side of the ring, because a punch you might not see from one side of the ring, you'll see it from the other end of the ring. So then one judge will spot something, another judge won't. But that's why decisions can be woeful in some ways too, because one judge sees it one way and the other one sees it another. I didn't see that punch coming from the right-hand side, but the judge on the other end of the ring, the other side of the ring, did see it. So that's why they've done the 3 judges thing, so all 3 can see the view of the punch.
Okay, but then again, you got the referee. Now, he doesn't stand behind
exactly
either box, or he stands to the side of 2 boxers. So surely he'd have
the best
view, wouldn't he?
And Don, that's like good. That's a really good point. And yeah. So in saying that, very, very good point. If he's the closest to it,
well, will you two shut up, you're idiots? I'm having an intellectual conversation here, something you struggle to have.
You made a good point. I thought that deserves a round of applause, Doc.
It's a lot of fun. Just on what you said earlier, Sammy, I would have stayed the distance here, no matter how much you used to go at it, because it reminds me of, I used to love Abbott and Costello, and you guys used to remind me of that.
Yeah. Who, Abbott and Costello?
Abbott and Costello. Yeah, you're right. Yabbit! That's your Yabbit. Costello.
And what's the other one? Who's on first base?
Who's on first? Yeah, we should play on
the Marx Brothers.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, Marx Brothers.
Abbott and Costello
was too.
Who's on first?
That's right.
You'll think it's serious. You won't even see the humour in who's on first, Don. You'll probably think that that's a reasonable, a legitimate conversation. Sam, I'm. So just on controversies stage, before I get on to more current things, you fought in 2014 Felix Sturm, and you beat him, and then you had the decision
overturned. Not reversed. It was overturned, but while it was overturned, I was put on hold.
Yes, because you failed they said a drug test.
Yeah.
And then it was overturned.
I was exonerated.
Mate, if that is not, as I said to Fennick, Jeff, mate, it's just all about corruption, isn't it? I mean, how can they possibly do that, then change the decision? It's just corrupt, isn't it?
Yeah, it's every country in the world that happens to. Like it's happened here.
Just run us through that situation, please, in 2014.
Yeah, well, I risked my number once. I was number 2 in the world. He was number 4 in the world. I was due for a world title fight after that fight. I could have chose anyone in the top 10, and as my career shows, I chose the best. I fought Felix Sturm, and I was questioned by people, why would you go down to another guy's hometown, fight him in his hometown, and risk your number 2 spot?
In Germany? Where was that?
The German Felix Sturm in Germany. And I said, because we want to fight the best, firstly. And secondly, after beating Sturm, I'll feel 100% ready for the world title fight versus the world champion. Took the risk, went down there, outboxed the world champion. Then they tried to then about a month or two later after celebrating this win and being ready for the world title fight, we get a phone call. I get a phone call like 3 a.m, because that's what time it is in Germany. It's in the afternoon over there with what's morning here. And I thought I was dreaming. I woke up, they're saying that, Sam, there's something serious happening here. I need you to keep your phone on. They said they found something in your
Urine?
Urine and all that. And I'm like, well, what's going on? What's all this about? And then they said I had some kind of exotic drug they tried to put, and they put it all on the paper and everything before even trying to ask me whether there was something in there.
They tried you and found you guilty before they even spoke to you.
That's right. So when we went through all the courts, and cost me over $50,000 just in some. So a quarter of my fight purse went just to of that fight.
In legal,
but it was worth it. I went to the top. I could have chosen a smaller firm. I chose the best firm there, and fortunately, it's funny. I had a friend who was an FBI agent there, and he put me onto this lawyer, and from there we fought it, and 90. Even the lawyer said to me, 90% of these cases are that if you've got something in your urine, you're going to get found guilty, and 10% don't. He was honest with me. But we were the 10% because they
couldn't substantiate it.
Well, they changed the rules first time ever in the history of the thing where they allowed my urine to be sent. It's a little tiny bottle of piss being sent from Germany all the way. It cost me $4,000 for a small bottle of urine to get sent from Germany
most
to America.
Most expensive liquid in the world.
Ever, gold, same colour. and sent all the way down to America to be tested by an independent laboratory, which found it completely clear. So if that didn't happen, and my lawyer didn't spend what I spent to my lawyer to get that done, which it's never been happened before, I'd still, to this day, everyone would think, oh, who knows what was in it. But fortunately, that lawyer saved my career.
So did you get reimbursed or compensated for the legal...
I can't talk about it.
You can't talk about it?
Which is sad, because what's that saying to you? That
yep.
They said, no worries, we'll
do whatever.
We'll accept whatever, but you can't talk about it. I'm like, well, we can't talk about it because you know you've done the wrong thing. But anyway,
what do you call that? A confidentiality agreement.
Confidentiality agreement.
When does that end?
You know you've done wrong.
Does that go forever, or is there a moratorium?
I don't know the rules about that. I wish I did, because I can't wait to. I'd love to talk about it more, but yeah.
Sam, can I ask you a question, because I watched your fight in 207, and it intrigues me, your career. Now, in 207, you fought Mundine. Now, I take my hat off. Yeah, Anthony Mundine, Tony. Anthony Mundine. Now, I take my hat off to you. One, your fitness, and two, mind over matter. And I reckon when an athlete has exhausted those two things, the mind and the body, you've given it your best shot. Why wouldn't you just say, hey, that's enough? What did you do after that fight? Because from then on until this championship we just talked about, you won. Now, I would have said, I'm exhausted. I've given it the best. Mentally, I thought, shit, he's going to get his head knocked off. Physically, you're in terrific shape to take what you absorbed, yet you went on. Can you just explain what happened, please?
Yeah, when I do a lot of motivational speaking to athletes coming through the ranks in any sport, in footy, and doesn't matter what sport. A lot of motivation, and I bring that up only because it's going to happen in anyone's career. There's going to be a win, there's going to be a loss, and just reminding you of why you do it is how you tackle that situation. So, for example, what happened with me with that fight, I had the whole crowd chanting Sammy after the fight until the decision got called. Then the word Sammy turned into, what a load of bullshit, and they're chanting bullshit because of the decision that went that way. And that's where I feel for Maloney, because I know what he's going through. But what kept me strong, and my late father used to always say, remind me of it, with situations like this, was he'd say to me, why do you do it? Do you do it for the fame? No. Do you do it? A bit of it's for that. Do you do it for the money? Do you do it because you just hope everyone's going to be thinking you're the best and all that? Or do you do it because you love it? And I said, obviously, because I love it. He goes, well, if you do it because you love it and you let something like this bring you down, they win twice. I go, what do you mean they win twice? Well, they won. They've robbed you of your championship or whatever. but they've also won again because let you stop doing what you love doing. You're going to let them win twice? Why would you let someone who let you down, who's burnt you, win twice?
Okay, that's fine. But could I ask you as an athlete, you've given it physically, like you got in there and you're fit. You know, you can't get any fitter. Now mentally, you got hit and you got hit hard. And how do you motivate yourself after that? You exhausted yourself physically and mentally, yet you're able to transform your style, and you've gone on for 7 years. I think it was 207, 6 years, win, and to finish up with the world championship.
Yeah, and that wouldn't have happened if I didn't have that mentality that, you know, I was hit hard by these judges, and it did hurt. But saying what I said to myself was, you know, I'm doing it because I love it, and remembered what my dad told me. Then that motivated me to go, well, you know what, I'm not going to let them take this away from me, to take the sport I love away from me by saying, you know, like what you said about, oh well, why should I keep going after all what I've put myself through to win it? And then I did that, and of course having that attitude, you just win after that, because you don't let what happened to you happen to you again.
So Sam, Don, I want to ask you this. Don and I played at the top level of our sport, but we had another 17 people on the field with us, and we got nervous in the big games. I don't think, I'm not speaking for him over there, but I can't comprehend what it would be like to travel to the other side of the world, fight someone who is world-class boxer.
World champion, yeah.
World champion 3 times, get in a ring and look at the bloke across the ring. The nerves and the anxiety of that, I just can't fathom. How do you dismiss that?
My favourite, you know why is my favourite question that I get asked all the time, especially when I do these talks or when I do a motivational talk or at a corporate function, or it doesn't matter where. It's because this relates to everybody, because in some time in their life they're going to be either doing a speech or they're going to compete or whatever. And it's, again, my late father, the advice he gave me about this was, when you've done everything you need to do to win the fight or to win the game, you've done everything in your power, and not just everything as in training wise, because you've trained hard and your opponents train hard, so the nerves are going to be there, but they could backfire on you and make you freeze and make mistakes, or you will worn out after the first quarter or the first round because the nerves have zapped you. The only reason the nerves zap you, and instead of working for you, keeping you sharp, work against you in that way, is because there must be something floating in the back of you, just above your shoulder to your right or left-hand side of your shoulder, saying, just lurking away in your brain, saying, if only I hadn't have stayed up that last night and hung out with the boys and had a few beers. Or if
you con yourself into having a positive...
Yeah. And so if I didn't cheat the system for the whole 5, 6, 8-week training camp, or in footy, in that whole 5 days of training for that next game, if I hadn't have just cheated that system just that once, I wouldn't have these nerves. So if you can just get all that bit right, you dieted right, you slept when you needed to sleep, you woke up when you needed to wake up, you've done the ice bath, you've done the stretching, you've done all the bits and pieces outside of the sport, you didn't cheat the system, you didn't sink the piss after the training or whatever, and then after that you come in there, your nerves work for you. You can never freeze. You'll actually perform better than without the nerves. You wouldn't perform, because you wouldn't perform as good, because it doesn't keep you sharp. Only time it'll keep you sharp is you've done everything right prior to it. Then you have no reason why you should feel like, well, mate, I'm overwhelmed here. The whole crowd chanting my name. I feel the weight on my shoulders of my country supporting me. I'm watching on pay-per-view. I'm here. I'm all over the place. I can't stuff this up. You can't stuff it up, because you've done everything you need to do to win it.
If I may, Don, just have you ever got into a fight and after the first 30 seconds of being in there thinking, I can't beat this person, this is beyond me, and never ever
in 30 fights and fighters, it's not boasting, it's not being cocky, it's not telling it never even come cross my mind. I've never gone into a fight, when I was 16, 17 and in the amateur rank, that's what amateurs are for, that's what local footy is for. So then you go to the VFL, then you go to the AFL. In the local footy, whatever mistakes you make in the local footy, if you can take those mistakes and take those losses in your mind, don't forget about it. I say, don't forget about that loss and move forward. No, don't forget about the loss. Forget about the feeling. Don't forget about the feeling of the loss. Don't forget about what happened to make that loss so that it doesn't happen again. Then you get in a big game in a premiership in the game, and you're like, you take from it what you didn't do right, whether it was outside of the footy training, like at home, or went out with the boys for a drink before a game, or whatever, weeks before a game or days before a game. You don't do that for that competition. You win the big championship fight or the big championship game. Then you say to yourself, Jesus, I was so down and out about that loss I had 4 weeks ago. If that didn't happen, I wouldn't have done what I've done today. I would have probably made that same mistake I did for that local game. Now I'm playing in this championship game with this championship fight. And wow. So I took something that was bad, and when the bigger opportunities always come later in your career. It's just the way life is. And when it does come, if you can take something from that loss, and you have the big event, then you're hunky dory. You're set. You look back and go, well, I'm glad that happened when it happened, because look, now I've won the world title, or I've won the Premiership Cup.
Is boxing in Australia, is it a reflection of our society? I mentioned earlier about in the 50s, it had the Sporting Globe, it was reported in the sports sections, it was broadcast on radio over Friday night. Boxing doesn't get the exposure that it used to get. Is that because we're a far more affluent country? It seems to Mexico, for some reason, it still flourishes in England, which I think might be something to do with the English psyche. I don't know. Is there an explanation as to why boxing's not what it used to be in Australia?
Yeah, no, I've never understood how that is, because it's one of the most loved sports, and there's 90% of men you'll talk to say, "Oh mate, I love my boxing." That's just a standard thing that you'll always hear. So it makes you wonder to try it. But in saying that, like I said earlier about, you do it because you love it. You don't do it for the fame, for the fortunes, for the finance, for the money. If you're doing it for that reason, then if you're not getting that recognition, remind yourself again, why are you doing it? Because you love it. And then you won't be disheartened by the fact that it doesn't get the recognition. I agree with you. It doesn't get the recognition it used to get as well, like Sugar Ray Leonard days and Hagler. The commercials, Pepsi commercials and that, and the boxers will be getting that. Even that doesn't happen no more like it used to. But again, in saying that, do it for the right reasons, and the one reason, because you love it, and then all the other stuff come with it.
The other question I've got, and I find it very frustrating, why are there so many different federations or conferences or associations within boxing that you can claim a title in a weight division or whatever?
The politics, is it?
It's one of the most asked questions. It's a good question, and the reason I say it's a good question is because
that's two. That's two I've got today, Sam.
Boom,
thank you.
Boom.
Thank you.
You brought the best.
Oh,
in
will
him
you
out.
shut up?
and that is because it's like they say it used to be the WBC, and then had the WBC, WA, and IBF, and they became the most recognised. And they've been around for so many years. That's why they're the most recognised titles. And then there's so many other titles, and people, what do you need so many titles for? You don't even know who the real world champion is, etc. How you'll know the real world champion is the three main belts: the IBF, the WBC, and the WBA. And all the titles under that work their way down. So WBO is probably the fourth biggest one, and IBO and WBF and so on. And some of them, it's almost you can sort of. Another way of putting it in our terms is in our sport of Aussie rules footy. I say our sport because that's one of our most loved sports in Australia, and as I love it myself, is the NAB Cup. It's the lesser world titles, and then you've got the WBC, WA, and IBF Premiership Cups, and you win that Premiership Cup, you've won the Premiership Cup. You win the NAB Cup, you're excited, recognised for the week and forgotten a week later, and they won the NAB Cup about. No, who won that? No, whereas the Premiership Cup, you remember it. It's exactly the same with the boxing. So if you can remember those three, the IBF, WBC, WA, they've been the longest reigning titles. They've been held by some of the best, the Sugar Rays and the Muhammad Alis and the Frasers and the Foremans and the Haglers and all the greatest. So, and of course they're the best.
Why can't those
financial.
three come together?
It's a money thing, isn't it?
They kind of do come together because, and again, it gives more. The other good reason about it, apart from that, is that you get so many. You got you got more opportunities for more fighters to get the championship belt, and then to get them together, to become an undisputed. Don't worry about the undefeated. The undisputed champion means you hold all three belts. Then yes, you have got them all, and they can do that. They can come together and you win all three. So. You win one IBF title, you've won a premiership, you won 3 IBF, WCWA, triple premiership, and it's the best way to look at it and explain it.
It's part of the psyche of a match, a boxing contest. Genuinely trash talking someone either at a press conference or at the ring while the referee's giving you instructions, is that genuinely you trash talk, or is that just for the press? Or did you do that, or did you get intimidated by someone who did it, or was it just water off a duck's back?
Everyone is different, and it works on some and not others. So it depends on the fighter, and that's why doing your homework before a game in footy, or doing your homework before a boxing event. For example, if you have to tag, say Liberatore, for example, senior, he was such a great tagger. I'm sure he would have watched the guy he's going to be tagging, because he would annoy the shit out of you through a whole game. And if he got 5 possessions, but he was on a guy that normally gets 40 and he gets 5 as well, he's done his job. It's the exact same with boxing. If he's watched him and said, this is what annoys him, this is how I'll get under his skin and I'll make a good player play not as good as he would have played. Exactly the same with boxing.
So who did you do that to?
So if I was firing up on a certain fighter, calling him every name under the sun or whatever, and I knew that was going to get under his skin because he has no composure. He gets fired up by it, and then his whole game plan goes out the window. Then you would do it for that fighter. Then for another fighter, this is a smart way of going about it. And another fighter, if you're relaxed, smiling, and you don't let nothing bother you, and that will upset your opponent who's niggling at you and trash talking, and that gets to him that you're pretty relaxed by it. If you can study your opponent beforehand and see that and try and do it, then they both would work.
Who has trash talked you, and what have they said to you, if anything?
Many fighters have trash talked in the past, and they've tried it, and have always stayed composed. And you stay composed, you stay relaxed, you enjoy the game. You love by a crowd, but that's only half of it. The other half is the fact that you've gotten to your opponent. It's like a street fight. There's no winner in a street fight. So either knock the guy out and you think you've won, but then you're in jail, or you haven't knocked the guy and you've been knocked down, you're in hospital. You can't win. But composure wins it for you, because then the fight doesn't happen and the person's shattered. So you've won the fight because this guy's shattered that you couldn't get to you, and you're not in jail and you're not in hospital. So you win. That's the only way to win the fight.
Win-win.
Win-win. And in boxing, you outscore the guy, you outpoint the guy. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to trash talk him. You outscore a guy. You get in footy, you get more possessions than your opponent. If I got more possessions than the opponent, if I got 35 possessions and Libba was on me through the whole game, I've hurt him more than I've turned around and said crack, thrown a left hook at his chin and knocked him down because of my anger. And then while I've gotten angry, I've let my whole teammates down. I've got suspended. Libba's laughing from ear to ear of the fact that he's gotten to me, and I haven't got the decisions of the possessions I could have got. I'm not playing next week, and I'm the better player for the possession getting. Same with boxing. So it hurts the person more to win the fight, to fight with your leather, with your gloves. Let the leather do the talking, and that hurts more than headbutting a guy or calling him names or whatever.
Something else that I don't understand or frustrates me, because I don't understand, is the weight divisions. Super heavy or not, super lightweight,
middle, super middle, light,
why
heavy,
aren't they
cruiser,
just lightweight,
feather?
middleweight, featherweight, bantamweight? Just simple, straight out.
I used to say it myself. I used to say, Jesus, it gets overwhelming for people to even know it. So, and goes over their head. But in saying that, where I think it's fair and good is the safety of a fighter. Now, if the weight division's between 65 and 72, which it's not, it's 65, then it's 63, then 67, then 69, then 72, light, middle, etc. If it was spread out like that compared to having a 65 and all the way up to 72, if I was 63 kilos and I'm fighting a guy 75, so I'm going up a weight division, I've got to eat up and try to get heavier. I'm not naturally that strength. I'm going to get hurt because I'm not naturally that strength.
Why would you go into that division anyway?
Because I'm struggling to make that 63 kilo anymore. Now I've grown, my bones have grown, I'm naturally 65. So if I'm naturally 65 and I can't make that 63 no more, I have to go to the next division. If my next division is 72, I know I'm in trouble. If I go down to 63, which I can't do it, I'm in trouble. I've got to dehydrate and you've heard the story about dropping weight, how that's
yeah.
So in saying that, it's actually good that they've done that, and of course everything positive has its negative. The negative is that
Okay, can I ask you why you fought at light heavy?
Good answer. Yeah.
What?
Hey, that was a good answer. Yeah, that was a good answer, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it covered because it's a hard one. It's a tough one now because people, it is very confusing the weight divisions and that.
Yeah. Now you fought at light. How did you put the weight on? And did you fight at light heavy?
No. So I gave away the weight because I couldn't get on a fight at my weight division. So I went up weight division. So
did you put on weight?
So this happens, and you can't put on. You actually naturally can't put on the weight and be as strong as the person that's that natural weight. You'll put on the weight, but it's just excess weight.
Yeah.
And being that it's excess weight, you're not going to hit as hard as a guy that's naturally that weight. And in saying that, that's how fighters make that mistake as well. As much as dropping the weight and being dehydrated and drained and making that mistake, going up a weight division is dangerous as well.
Yeah, but you fought at light heavy. I'm asking you.
Again, I made that mistake, and it wasn't a mistake at first. I won my Australian title cruiserweight in my second pro fight. We created some history there. It had never been done, and we were celebrating, but with that came a consequence. My next fight, of course, now I'm Australian champion cruiserweight. I've got to defend that title against another big guy. So I'm fighting out of my weight division over and over again because I couldn't get no one at my weight. What do I do? Break my hand on a guy's head because he's the bigger fellow. It's just the way it works, and you're not naturally at strength. And
did you want to ask?
Oh,
I've got a lot to ask.
Well, all right. Just let me while we're on this, so that is it possible to quantify what percentage of boxers suffer in AFL, where if a handful of people get knocked around in the head and knocked out a few times, the CTE, I think it's called, isn't it? The
CT scans.
Whatever the scans. What
MRI.
Percentage, seeing as you've fought 506 rounds, I'm not talking about you, incidentally,
that's right.
or unless you think it has been deleterious to your mental acuity, what percentage of boxers...
Sam.
What percentage of boxers do actually suffer from being having a lot
probably
I
given
wasn't talking about you, incidentally.
guessing between 5 and 10% max.
Yep.
Max. That's been I know probably 5,000-6,000 boxers in my career of meeting fighters, and probably more, and I don't know of any that are talking slower. As in boxing terms, they call them punchy, but they're suffering from slowing down, can't speak and all that. So in saying that, that's why I'm saying that percentage, because only from what I've seen in the news, talked about a fighter or a boxer who has slowed down, speaking slower or whatever. But if I know that many boxers and not one. Like the COVID, I don't know anyone. I don't know personally know anyone with COVID. You probably don't want none. There you go. So it sounds like, oh wow, COVID's everywhere. But how come I don't know anyone? You don't. Same with boxing. I don't know anyone that's talking slower and can't put a few words together and suffered. So in saying that, that's why I say 5%. So in saying that 5%. Australia gets called the nanny country, for the fact that they've overprotect and all that. But in saying that, the nanny country, well, when other countries have these issues, if some countries will have these issues more than others, and ours rarely ever will you hear of a blood clot to the brain and they've passed. In Australia, I can't name one at the moment. So in saying that, it might be a nanny sport in that way here, but you know what? If you're protecting the fighters, why not? And it's not nanny sport over the top where you have to wear a head guard now and you have to put 16-ounce gloves, sparring gloves when you're fighting. So it's good that we're in a country where it's such a beautiful country in that way that we protect our fighters in every which way we can, amateur and pro.
Australia's done well with smaller boxers. Why can't we produce bigger boxers, the heavyweights, light heavies?
I'm working on that myself. I've got to cover a really quick guns. Ironically, Tim Quick. You heard of Tim Quick? He played for Melbourne. Tim Quick, he had 2 or 3 games in the AFL, and now he's one of my fighters, heavyweight, and he's going to be a gun.
What weight's he?
He's walking around at 96. I'll get him down to 91 kilos, and he's going to be one of our guns, mate. And he very dedicated to his sport, to his boxing, and loves his boxing.
So he'd be a one-off case. There wouldn't be too many others.
I've trained with and been around heavyweights in the past. Now, I can be biased. It's my fighter, but I'm not going to be. I'm going to tell it as it is. This kid is going to be a gun.
Yeah, but has he got competition in Australia, other heavyweights?
Yeah, it's a good question too, yeah. Give us a clap. Oh, God. Yeah, the
trifecta. You've got the trifecta out of him today.
It's a hat-trick.
He's never asked 3 decent questions.
Will you shut up?
Yeah, full face of the bat.
Well done.
You're
a motivational speaker. You've got the best out of him.
Unfortunately, there's not the competition. You have to travel, but there's a certain amount of fights before you have to travel, like 10 to 15 fights before you have to travel with the heavyweights. The heavyweight division hasn't got as big a, what's the word for it?
Depth?
Yeah,
Depth. That's exactly the word I'm looking for, depth.
Okay, now in America, I just admired those fighters, the heavyweights. They'd have to be on, I'm asking the question, were they on steroids?
Oh, every sport has it. I mean, you can't, every
but
sport.
It didn't seem to be with the smaller guys, but the heavyweights, they were just sculptured.
Yeah, I think all weight divisions, it's the same. They heavyweight, lightweight, steroids are steroids, and they're going to take it if they're not good, if they're not honest, or they don't believe in themselves. Because anyone that takes a steroid you can't say they believe in themselves. They believe in their ability, or if they really believe, really, really, truly, deep down in their heart, they believe in their ability. And even if they're really good ability and they take the steroids, they want to be the best of the best. If they really want to be the best, they don't need that. Okay,
So why aren't they drug tested, Sam? Why aren't they drug tested?
The
big heavyweights. Why aren't they?
Oh no, they're stricter now on it. They're much more strict. Unfortunately, it's the big championship fights where they're really strict on it, and the ones that aren't big championship fights, the promoters can sort of let's just let the fight go on, don't worry about it, sort of thing, and pull strings, and it's a bit loose like that, the boxing that way sometimes. But the championship fights, it's very well regulated, and the boxing commissions are all over that.
So now just a question with that. Well, they're all questions without notice, but just let's pick your brain. The most memorable fights that you've watched or been in yourself, just for the people listening to this. I'm no point me telling you what I think about what are the most memorable fights, but you've mentioned some great names and you've fought some great people. Which ones stick in your mind the most?
Ones I love, like Barry Michaels versus Lester Ellis. That was a great fight. I loved the fight I had with Winky Wright. That was one of my...
With who?
Winky Wright, yep. Ronald Winky Wright. And Winky doesn't sound like a tough name, but Winky was Winky. He was pound for pound the best in the world. Sugar Ray Leonard and Durand, Sugar Leonard Hearns, so many legends of the sport. I was fortunate to hang out with that legend himself. So actually these boxing gloves came from Sugar Ray. He handed them to me, and I'm not being biased because he gave me these gloves. His fights were, as most who know boxing will tell you, he's fought some of the best.
What was who?
Thomas Hearns. He fought Hearns.
And what's the other?
Classic. Him and Sugar Ray. He fought Sugar Ray. That's the guy I'm talking about, the game of gloves, yeah.
Who?
He's like this.
Marvin
Hagler, good man. Yeah, the super.
Thank you very much.
And they called it the super bout. That was John Locko there, the a guy I live with. A guy I live with for training camps. And John Locko, he's I've known him now for 13 years, and there's John's comment
making
there.
A regular appearance. He was in here with John Van Wiss.
John Van Wiss, another legend of the sport.
Set him on the path to victory. Maybe we'll interview him next.
A mentor of mine. Yeah, that's right. And I say mentor. He swam Alcatraz and back in the shark-infested waters. A crazy man.
So the great Muhammad Ali. I'm interested to hear what they attributed his boxing career and going on too long to getting Alzheimer's. Did he have Alzheimer's or dementia in the end?
Parkinson's. Sorry, Parkinson's. That's right. I always confuse the two myself. Don't feel bad.
I have no idea what the difference between Parkinson's. Yeah. So probably I've got one of them.
That's how it came.
So they attributed that probably incorrectly. He was probably just one of the people who was going to get it anyhow. I don't know that. And don't tell me he was on steroids, or was he?
No, definitely
the great Muhammad Ali, please.
He wasn't.
No. Well, you look at the build of some fighters.
Well,
if you need this with the steroids, they just reshape you in an unbelievable way for that moment in time.
Holyfield, what a magnificent,
exactly.
How sculpted could you get a heavyweight?
And then the shape just goes to shit. So they're steroids. That's right. There's so many side effects to the steroids, and one of the biggest side effects of all is how you look after it. And guys like Hulk Hogan and that, who looked so ripped and shredded and then but fortunately for him, he's kept himself healthy. He's still been training and but the steroids, it stands out. It's funny I say Hulkster, that bandana you got on you there, Don. Yeah. I thought of the Hulkster straight away. You got it tied up the way exactly the way he did. Remember Hulk Hogan? He used to wear the...
Yeah, no, I know.
There was a documentary on him on the weekend with Andre the Giant on SBS.
They had a good few punch-ups, didn't they? Andre.
Yeah, no, it was interesting, the dynamics. Yeah, interesting dynamics. Does character come out in the boxing ring? Can you psych somebody out in the box? I like it for that reason. I don't look at stats, but I just like the dynamics that exist between two athletes.
What a question.
No, you're full of shit too. You can finish.
Sam, it's not a good question because I've already asked you that question.
No, but the way he's asked it, because he's asked me
a different way.
Yeah, he said,
you plagiarised
Will you shut up?
When you meet up toe to toe, when you about to touch gloves, and the psyche of looking at your opponent, he looks at you back. Rocky Marciano, I was reading a book on Rocky Marciano and how and his career, and one of the things he said that really stuck to me, and I used it in a lot of my fights, and it worked. Fighters, I'm giving away an important secret here. I shouldn't, but I'm going to give it away because I can now. I'm retired. Rocky never looked in their eyes. You always look at your opponent in the eyes. If you look eye to eye to someone, then you read their emotions, they read yours. If you're feeling any fear whatsoever, he'll feel some of that. Whereas if I'm looking at just above your eyes, just between your eyes and your forehead, just above your eyebrows, and the whole time just staring just there, you cannot read how I'm feeling. And you got to try this. You guys try this. Try this on you. Try this on anyone. Try this on your parents.
I'll try it on Don.
You don't try it on anyone. They will feel like this guy. Nothing fears this guy. But if I looked at, not being sarcastic, if I looked at Mike Tyson, I was looking at that spot, I wouldn't be fearing Mike as much as I did if I was looking right into his eyes. It works.
Now, Sam Soloman. A fascinating insight into the most durable boxer in the world, a legend and a dead-set champion. We say those words off the top of our head. They just flow off beautifully, but this is a definite star. And I want to just very quickly, could you tell us, what's your background and where did you grow up and where did you come from?
Well, you're asking where the King Solomon thing came from. Well, my mum said, well, you're Egyptian, King Solomon in the Bible. And my mum and dad are both religion, Christians.
Both Egyptian?
Both Egyptian, yes. Both Christian. And I was born in Australia, and mum wanted to name me King Solomon because from the Bible, King Solomon. And she just said, good, strong, tough name. And I'm like, Mum loves her boxing. She's ringside for the
You
fights.
grew up in...
Yeah, and I grew up in near Frankston,
Yep.
near Aspendale, and hung out in Frankston, and that's why I had to learn how to fight. So
That's right, yeah.
It was a special moment for me. One of my biggest Australian title fights I fought in Festival Hall kickboxing. This was back in the early 90s, and hence the grey hairs on the chin. Yeah, early 90s. It's been 30 years in the sport, and I had all of Frankston. We had probably about 70, 80 people on the train heading to Festival Hall, and to all having a drink and partying. I'm the only one not drinking because I'm the only one fighting, and celebrating and going for a big fight up there. So yeah.
Well, Don.
John Famershon also came from down there. Did you realise that?
Yeah, a few champions did. Yeah. It was good.
Who else?
Well, not far from there, Bomb Beach, Lionel Rose.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but he originally came from down Druin Way.
Yeah, but then
later lived in Essendon.
in the peninsula. But they were in the peninsula for a while.
What about the next world champion? Surely, unless he already is, it would be Tim Zhu.
Tim Zhu, little gun, mate. Yeah,
Isn't
really
he a gun?
Yeah, really
I
good
know
fighter.
not a lot about
Yeah.
it, but his class.
Yeah.
He fears no one. He stands
Yeah.
up and looks him in the eye and.
Yeah, that's
Not
right.
that-
And
not
that's
that
right. And
anyone
he's
would.
got that style similar to his dad. He looks
has.
like his dad. His style similar to his dad. But without comparing him to his dad, he does have that gift of being able to hit and not get hit.
He does.
And
So
then
he's a
back.
boxer?
Yeah, little
He's a
gun.
boxer or a fighter?
Great boxer.
Is he a boxer or a fighter?
Both.
Yep.
That's what makes
Oh,
him
he can do
special.
both.
He can do both.
Now, Don, we have spoken to the king. Not often you get to speak to a king, but this is King Soloman, and he's a star. And
Too kind.
we thank him for coming in. The great Sam Soloman.